There are a lot of women in Bruce Wayne's life, even if you just count the ones who have vexed him as his alter ego, the Batman. Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Talia al Ghul, to mention just a few. But there is one that has stood out as more deadly and more psychotic than all the rest. Pamela Isley, otherwise known as Poison Ivy. However, Poison Ivy's start in comic book history was not a very illustrious one, a story that was not exactly the greatest ever told in early Batman books, and one that, if she was just a one-off, would not have left readers clamoring for more. Not yet present was her penchant for using plant toxins to subdue others or outright eliminate her obstacles. Not yet present was her eco-terrorist motivations for committing the crimes that she would eventually commit. And not yet present was her ability to create monstrous creatures out of flora and fauna, sometimes using innocent human lives as hosts. What was there in June of 1966, in Batman issue number 181, was a motivated, narcissistic, and fearless woman who wanted to simply be number one. Instead of using plant toxins and mind control, she used chloroform. Instead of using plant monsters, she bribed men with straight cash to do her bidding. And instead of relying on pheromones to ensnare the hearts of men, she relied on the fact that her beauty was enough to make any man swoon, even Bruce Wayne, and even the Batman. Her name wasn't even Pamela Isley until later on in the 1980s. Her original name was Lillian Rose, and while we are not covering issue 181 in depth, it is important to understand what Poison Ivy was in order to appreciate what she eventually became in July of 1978, with her reboot into the beginnings of the arch-villain we have all come to know, and ironically, have all come under her spell. But before we begin, we'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe, comment, and share this video out. It really helps out the channel each and every week. Thank you. Batman issue number 181 opens with Bruce Wayne and his ward, Dick Grayson, attending the opening of a pop art exhibit. This one featuring the images of the three most dangerous and successful women in crime. Number 1, Dragonfly. Number 2, Silken Spider. Number 3, Tiger Moth. All deadly, all beautiful. And as they look at the art, Bruce tells Dick to calm down. He's way too young to lose his head over one of them. However, young Dick dreams of the day he can catch one on his own. Suddenly, the crowd in the exhibit is interrupted by a beautiful woman with red hair, wearing leaves for a bodysuit with green tights to match. She announces to the crowd that they are all fools, that she is the true number one, the real queen of crime. Her crimes are so perfect, none of them even know they took place. She is Poison Ivy. All the reporters rush forward for pictures in the story. Bruce Wayne grabs Poison Ivy by the wrists and tells her that maybe her next stop should be the police. But Bruce is different then and there. He is infatuated with Ivy's beauty. Ivy takes out her lipstick. She wants to freshen up for the cameras. But as she opens it, all of the flashbulbs set off at the same time, brighter and more blinding than normal. Turns out, Ivy has gadgets of her own, a device to overload the cameras, causing everyone to go temporarily blind, giving her a chance to escape. Even Bruce is blinded, but knowing everyone else is too, he changes into his alter ego in public and runs on instinct to an open door after Ivy. Unfortunately, the open door is an elevator shaft and the Batman plummets. But he is able to use his sense of touch to grab the elevator cables and arrest his descent. When he gets outside, he is greeted by a bunch of random men paid $100 each to pummel anyone who comes out the door after Ivy, and they do just that to the Dark Knight. The remainder of our story in issue 181 is Poison Ivy writing fake letters to the three most infamous female criminals, getting them jealous at each other and challenging each other to a fight for the number one spot. She also writes to Bruce Wayne and the Batman, although it is not explained how her letter gets to the Dark Knight, but she has a personal choice to make. Focus on loving Bruce Wayne and making him her unwilling sugar daddy, or mesmerizing the Batman and convincing him to turn to crime as her partner. The final act sees the three Femme Fatales arrive at Ivy's hideout, along with Batman and Robin, and a dozen paid thugs to duke it out. Ivy tries her chloroform on Batman once more, and although it seems to have an effect, Robin is there to set the Batman straight. They easily catch Poison Ivy and send her to jail. full of rage at being rejected. Ivy would return in Batman issue 183, but her character would not change very much. The Poison Ivy we would come to know would start her true villainous journey in World's Finest issue 251 from 1978, not battling the Dark Knight, but going up against another of the Holy Trinity of DC Comics, the Amazon Princess, Wonder Woman herself. And as a part of this 2-issue story arc, we would get our first origin story for Ivy as part of her pre-crisis lore. But first, as with most things Ivy, we begin with a murder in a story titled A Kiss of Death ×3. We find ourselves at the 31 Club in New York City, a place for the elite and for the nearby UN diplomats to cozy up to one another, have a cocktail, and enjoy the finer things in life. The British ambassador is enjoying a glass of Dom Perignon with a much younger, beautiful redhead who tells him to just call her Ivy. Simply Ivy. From the not-so-subtle hints, the ambassador thinks his evening will be a very lucky one indeed. As they pick at their meal and order more drinks, Ivy tells the ambassador that it is bad luck to not eat your parsley, at least according to her mother. Wanting to be as lucky as he can be, the ambassador swallows the garnish. A moment later, he collapses, his face in a bucket of ice, chilling champagne. He dies almost instantly. Ivy, in the confusion, heads for the exit. 30 minutes later, Steve Howard, a member of UN security, is accompanied by his associate, UN official Diana Prince. They ask to see the body in the crime scene. The local police wonder why. An old man keeled over? Must have been a heart attack, but Diana knows better. The British ambassador was in perfect health. As she crouches to inspect the body, she pulls a piece of what looks like parsley from the ambassador's hand. A single sprig, but it's not parsley. It is fool's parsley, Ethusa sinapium. The only difference between the two, this one is deadly if ingested. The next morning at the UN building, Diana and Steve ponder the murder and the reports of a mysterious woman who vanished right after. For Diana, her instinct is that this is not the end of it all, merely the beginning. Suddenly, a scream of terror erupts through the halls. It's coming from the Security Council chambers. Steve rushes ahead. Diana decides that it's time for Wonder Woman to make an appearance and transforms into her true self. As the two make their way, Diana questions her relationship with Steve. You see, this is not really Steve Howard, but the resurrected Steve Trevor, a gift from the goddess Aphrodite. Except Steve Howard is mostly unaware of his true past. Wonder Woman can't decide if she's with the real Steve or just a ghost that is still dead inside. Those thoughts disappear quickly when they enter the chambers. The ambassador from Mozambique is on the floor, and he is all but finished. Steve asks Diana to call for an ambulance, but Diana sees something move and runs off to investigate. Maybe it is the murderer. What she first sees is a giant shadow. Then she sees what the shadow belongs to, a creature the size of a tree, with leaves for hair and bark for skin. It lands a crushing blow to Diana, who knows she cannot withstand a second. She evades the second and throws a kick of her own, falling backward in the process. While on her back, she lands another punch to the creature, causing it to topple on top of her, knocking her out. The creature rises up and stomps off, leaving a trail of leaves and mud in his wake, which Diana inspects after coming to. When Diana finds Steve again, he is still standing over the dead body of the representative from Mozambique, except now they have a clue. The leaves left behind, and the mud trail. Later in the evening, at the Italian embassy, a beautiful redhead beckons to the senior ambassador. He is a gentleman, not one who indulges in anonymous, amorous affairs, but he follows her anyways, wondering who she is and what she wants. The ambassador enters a private sitting room with the young lady and begins to advise her that he is a moral man, but others might take advantage of a young, pretty woman like herself, that she should be careful. The young woman has said nothing. Instead, she grabs the ambassador and kisses him, an act that shocks the elderly man. A moment later, he falls dead. The young woman exits the embassy to her awaiting limousine and tells her driver that the deed is done. The ambassador is dead. As they speed down East River Drive, the woman tells her driver that she must get out of that dress. It's too constrictive, and she changes into her true identity. Poison Ivy has returned. She asks that the car phone be turned on so she can report back to her employer, another ambassador from another nation. She lets him know that all three targets are dead and that they can now meet at her refuge in 1 hour. Her refuge, just off exit 24, the Botanical Gardens. Ivy is met by her henchmen, 3 thugs dressed like the Jolly Green Giant. They congratulate her as she exudes satisfaction in her work. However, they are not alone. From behind the shrubbery emerges Wonder Woman, filled with anger and determination to stop Ivy there and then. She tells Ivy that she is every bit the monster her reputation says she is. Ivy, shocked to see the Amazonian princess, orders her men to kill her. As Diana easily handles the 3 thugs, she explains that it was simple to find Ivy. The tropical leaves left behind could only come from one place, the Botanical Gardens. That's when she realized it had to be Ivy behind the murders. But one question remains. Why here? Why New York City? Why stray from Gotham City? Isn't the Batman her regular opponent? Ivy's driver tries to get the drop on Wonder Woman with a pistol, but instead gets lassoed for his trouble. Wonder Woman demands that Ivy surrender. Ivy tells Wonder Woman that her confidence is premature, which proves correct because our Amazonian hero does not see Redwood, the creature she first encountered at the UN, rise up behind her. With one giant arm, he hauls Wonder Woman into the air, begins to squeeze the breath from her lungs. Ivy orders the creature to continue squeezing, squeeze until she gasps, then whines, then until she makes no sound at all. Ivy tells Wonder Woman that Redwood is a former lover of hers. He tried to leave her, but no one leaves Poison Ivy. She treated him with a special herbal compound containing elements of petrified wood. It changed him, destroyed his mind, but as Wonder Woman can now see, their love will remain eternal. As Wonder Woman begins to black out, she begs Hera to give her strength, and with one last effort, breaks free of the beast's grip, snapping his arms off in the process. Ivy scolds Diana for costing her a valuable tool. Diana tells Ivy, "Woman, I am going to enjoy sending you to jail." As Wonder Woman rushes forward, Ivy blasts her with poison gas from her wristbands. A second later, Wonder Woman is unconscious. She awakens in a closet tied up. She can hear Ivy and others talking in the next room. Ivy's ambassador partner has arrived. As they speak, a giant picture of the Batman covers the wall. Ivy is demanding her payment for services rendered. She wants the rare Cupid's root herb, only found in the ambassador's nation. An herb which produces instant blind obedience. It's the only way she will get the Batman's lasting love and make him her slave forever. The ambassador promises to deliver the herb, but there is one problem. Wonder Woman is Ivy's prisoner, and Steve Howard is still free, a danger to their plans. Ivy explains that Steve won't be a problem much longer. Ivy has taken steps to eliminate him permanently. The threat to Steve's life is enough for Wonder Woman to break free of her bonds, smash the nearest window, and flee to rescue her love. Ivy's driver delivers news of Diana's escape. She orders him to do nothing. She wanted Wonder Woman to overhear everything. Let her race to her precious Steve, because once Wonder Woman touches him, Steve Howard will die, and it will be Wonder Woman who murders him. Our story picks up in issue 252 of World's Finest, in the chapter titled, A Prison of the Heart. Our hero, Wonder Woman, is racing back to New York City in her invisible plane. And yes, I know, I can hear some of you out there already complaining. Why does she need an invisible jet when she can fly? Technically, she did not fly in the original comics. She glided on air currents. So, no air currents? She needs a jet. Not until 1986 was she granted the power of flight by the god Hermes in her reboot. Okay? Y'all satisfied with that explanation? From now on, just let it go. Back to the story. Wonder Woman somersaults out of her cockpit and into Steve's office, but he is nowhere to be found. Her hands are trembling. She touches a plant as she moves towards the door. So much death in so short a time. Suddenly, the office door opens. It is Steve with another man. He goes to embrace her, but she dies out of his way, all while yelling about the mirror behind him. Steve, frozen in his tracks, listens as Wonder Woman explains she saw the plant she touched in the mirror. From the moment she brushed up against it to the moment Steve walked in, the plant has withered and died. Ivy must have coated her with poison too. If she touched Steve, she would have killed him. Steve orders the man with him, an FBI agent, to get some heavy disinfectant. The trio then return to the Botanical Gardens. They really did not expect to find anything, especially Poison Ivy. Steve asks who this Poison Ivy character is, but before Diana can answer, the FBI agent pulls out a file. He can answer that. Steve remarks that the FBI has a file on everyone. The agent answers back, everyone but Steve. After all, no one really knows Steve Howard is Steve Trevor, returned from the dead. The agent drops the subject and returns to the file and begins to read. Subject: Poison Ivy. True name: Lillian Rose. Born in Washington State. Raised in upper middle class, good background, good education. Trouble began when studying botany in college. Her professor, a Frenchman named Marc Legrand, slick, cool, aloof, handsome, and overpowering, too overpowering for a naive young girl like Lillian. Legrand seduced her. Lillian fell deeply in love with him. She thirsted for experience and he fed that appetite, binding her to him more completely than any slave. Then, a few weeks later, Lillian wanted to get married, but Mark was not wealthy. He wanted to earn his fortune by discovering something revolutionary in the world of botany, a new medicine or herbal remedy. He had hoped to examine the ancient herbs stored in an Egyptian urn, sealed thousands of years ago, but that was under lock and key in a museum, and he was certain his answer lied within those herbs. So Lillian offered to do whatever it took. She offered to steal them for him, and Mark accepted. How she did it is still a bit of a mystery to the FBI. Like a seasoned pro, she bypassed the alarms and retrieved the urn. When she brought it back to Mark, they opened it, the first in centuries to do so. The ancient herbs were all there, but what Mark knew, and Lillian did not, is that those herbs were the most deadly poison ever recorded in ancient history. Mark used a bit of them to spike Lillian's drink, murdering her, and taking off with the herbs to sell to the underworld to the highest bidder. A classic double cross. What Mark did not know, because the FBI could never track him afterwards, is that Ivy survived, even after receiving a fatal dose of the Egyptian herbs. But instead, those herbs were absorbed and metabolized into Lillian's bloodstream, effectively making her immune to any poison of any kind, natural or man-made. After hearing all of this, Wonder Woman's first thoughts are to contact the Batman, but as she tried, she got no response. He must be off-world with Superman on a mission. Now it was up to her to go to the one country that naturally grows Cupid's root. The FBI agent tells her that they can check with the CIA and figure out exactly where she needs to go to stop Ivy once and for all. Ivy's destination? A dictatorship in East Africa. Her plane is met on the airstrip by the dictator himself and armed guards. He delivers Ivy her fee, Cupid's root, payment for removing his country's enemies. For Ivy, she reminds the dictator that those men were pushing for investigations into human rights violations, and that even with them gone, his time in power is probably still short. But instead of conflict, Ivy already has what she wants. She, Redwood, and her pilot depart, off to Gotham to finally make the Batman hers forever, and he will suffer for scorning her all those times before. But plans can change. Suddenly, the pilot warns her that there is something at 12 o'clock directly ahead. Even though they cannot see the invisible jet, the figure of Wonder Woman at the controls is clear in the sky. For Ivy, she cannot understand how she found them, but that question becomes irrelevant as the invisible jet slices through the right wing of Ivy's plane, sending it down. Terror crosses Ivy's face as the pilot makes a crash landing, skidding the belly of the plane along until it finally stops and begins to burn. As Ivy exits the plane, they see Wonder Woman descend from the jet. She sends the pilot in Redwood to distract her. Wonder Woman first grabs the pilot and throws him into the air. Her rage boils over as she continues to think about how Ivy used her to almost kill Steve. Redwood, still without arms, is not effective battling the Amazon. A punch to the trunk, a double fist to the chest, and Redwood goes down. But Ivy has a plan. The distraction gave her enough time to steal Diana's magic lasso and slip it over her. Even an Amazon cannot resist the lasso. Ivy orders Wonder Woman to punch herself in the face and knock herself out. Wonder Woman has no choice but to comply. With the lasso, Ivy can now keep this Amazon as her own personal tool. She orders Redwood to carry Wonder Woman as the four have a very long walk ahead of them. For hours, they trek the East Africa landscape. When Wonder Woman finally awakens, she walks on her own, in silence. She stares at Redwood, and something she had not put together until now forms in her mind. The group comes to a waterfall, a perfect place to rest for the night as twilight descends. Wonder Woman tells Ivy that she heard all about her broken heart, about Marc Legrand, about how he disappeared. She then tells Ivy that the story of Mark's disappearance is not entirely true. as she turns to Redwood. Ivy screams that she does not know what she's talking about, but Wonder Woman continues, "Does Legrand know? Does he remember?" Wonder Woman addresses Redwood directly, calls him by his name, Mark Legrand, asks him why he obeys his mistress. Would the real Legrand obey? She asks Redwood if he can remember the initial betrayal, but then how Ivy found him, maybe even pretended that everything was okay, forgiven, until she poisoned him, turned him into this thing, made him into a monster. Ivy's had enough and demands that Wonder Woman shut up, but it is too late for Ivy. Silently, Redwood turns and rushes his mistress, only his petrified face and yellow eyes expressing his newfound horror and rage. Wonder Woman begs Legrand to stop, that she can bring him to Paradise Island and maybe cure him, but Legrand does not stop. He and Ivy tumble hundreds of feet over the cliffside into the violent rapids of the waterfall, silently like dolls flung in the air, and then like toys, they vanish under the water. Both have now been repaid for their betrayals. It certainly was not what Wonder Woman intended, but somehow it seemed inevitable. Wonder Woman thinks to herself that now they both have peace together, the long final peace of the grave. Thus ends the first origin story of Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy's origin story would change a few times more over the years, especially in the Joker's Asylum run and her own self-titled series. But it is this story that helped shape the psychotic and vicious villain that she truly was and truly is. I hope you enjoyed this look back at pop culture and comic book history. I thank you for watching. If you want more pop culture fun, click on the thumbnail at the end of the video for our look back at the fallen angel of the Red Lantern Corps. Please, you'll be glad you did. Until next time, remember I'm still your reluctant gringo from somewhere south of the border. Salut and a huevo.